Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Leeor Alexandra. Welcome to the Beat community. On this channel, we talk about the law of attraction, spirituality, self-development, and so much more. The following video is a segment from a longer podcast episode that I have with Dr. Indy Einstein, or Indy the Alchemist, that you can find on my Inner Worlds podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I will also link them below in this segment video. I hope you enjoy.
But we're bypassing these hardships because we're so comfortable in the way we live. So it's basically stepping outside of your comfort zone and don't be so dependent on this system or this matrix. That in a way is like the empowering transhumanism, right? Transcending the human experience that we know in this distorted matrix, basically, and removing all types of attachments and codependency on this matrix.
Indy, I've been thinking about going off grid and dropping off the internet and just disappearing. And this conversation is really pushing me towards that.
We're all thinking, I literally have been buying so many books on like how to survive an apocalypse and how to live off of the grid, just because like that is really my dream. That's my goal right now. I want to just move away either in the mountains or just get a bunch of like farmland and just really duck off. And I feel like a lot of people are feeling like that.
Are doing this. Yeah. There are so many YouTube videos. I'll send you some that really show the process. There's so many, all these people creating homesteads. It's really interesting. I'll send you some. I think it's so funny that I tweeted right before we got on our call. I tweeted saying, in an apocalyptic scenario, at least I will be able to serve tea gracefully, because
oh my God.
at least I can do that. I have a lot of learning to do. Okay, so to steer the conversation a little bit back towards transhumanism. So I really, before our conversation, didn't have much understanding of what it is, but I'm kind of seeing a little bit of the agenda, which of course I want you to talk about. But what I'm deducing is that transhumanism ultimately is a way to trap human souls in bodies, in physical bodies, for even longer.
Yes, to keep their system going even longer. You even see like, the whole immortality thing, wanting to live forever. When you live forever, you're basically trying to beat karma. You're trying to pay back your debts. Reincarnation is basically having a second chance or redemption to, finish anything that you didn't complete in a past life, or learning lessons that you didn't learn in a past life. It's basically like climbing, a new level in this game, or, this big, I guess, learning experience that Earth and our existence is. When you go towards immortality and living forever on Earth, not only are you like not giving yourself the ability to beat karma, redeem yourself, I guess, from past karmic flaws and like mistakes and things like that, but you're racking on more karma, right? So the entire time that you're staying, alive, you're racking on more karma. You're basically selling your soul away for what? Eternity. That's like the big soul contract, because you're giving your soul away to, a synthetic body and going against pure creation to live in a distorted matrix. You're basically giving your soul away to the matrix, or the distorted matrix. So in a way, you're kind of just recycling your energy for good.
That's what karma would be, when reincarnation is recycling energy for good?
No, the process of immortality that we see on Earth.
Okay.
It would be recycling your energy completely. Like it's basically, think of like a vacuum or a black hole. You're basically giving yourself to that vacuum or a black hole for good, essentially. And that energy now is going to be used, or can be used, for something else, like that you don't even understand,
And it's these people that kind of feel like they're above getting that checks and balances in their life, right? And we can't escape it. It's almost like, I see it from when you were describing it, almost like drinking caffeine and blocking off our receptors for sleep, right? We're blocking off that receptor that tells us, okay, it's time to go to bed. And you're just drinking more and more caffeine, building up all that karma, building up all those chemicals that tell you it's time to go to sleep. And then eventually you have to meet your maker, right? It's gonna crash. You're gonna crash. Exactly. You know what I thought was really interesting that you tweeted about, and I brought this up to you and we talked last week, plastic surgery as transhumanism, kind of as bringing about acceptance and kind of like sneaking it into mainstream society.
Yes. Plastic surgery is really one big ritual. And I learned this when I was astral traveling while sleeping. They actually took me to this like underground surgeon office where like different celebrities and like beings and elites and things like that kind of like have plastic surgery parties. And it's one big ritual. And basically it's like a ritual for distortion, you know, because you're distorting the human body and putting in, you're basically turning yourself into a robot. If you think about it, you're putting synthetic materials into your body. So you're turning yourself kind of into some sort of robot already. So you're kind of seeing it, you know, sneaked into our subconscious mind in that way. But also it's kind of preparing people to see beings that don't look like humans through the odd forms that humans are turning themselves into. For example, with like these drastic BBLs and like things like that, and implants and things like that. There's beings who like have, you know, drastic features, whether it's the body, the face, the head. It's basically kind of like preparing us to live alongside beings that kind of look like this or operate like this.
It is so socially acceptable now to just fill your face with things and to get these BBLs. TikTok is filled with them.
Yeah, even like there's people attempting to do it at home. Then you have like Botox. I always thought that was something that like an older woman would go to get to look young. You have, you know, girls as young as like 17 even getting Botox, and I'm not even sure why, like fillers and things like that. I'm not sure why, because I always thought that was like first aging. So it's crazy how like much it's became like a culture of its own.
So we kind of already talked about the spiritual. So I was going to ask you about the spiritual implications, but you've already explained that beautifully, that we're kind of escaping karma. You know, people are trying to escape karma, and the agenda behind it, I offered that perhaps it's to keep us, you know, to keep these souls stuck in these vessels for as long as possible. But is there other parts of that agenda?
I guess another spiritual implication that I kind of found when I went to the astrals really quick was that basically like, because I remember someone asking if like transhumanism could create like some sort of spiritual imbalance. So basically like everything that you just said, but also I kind of saw that it's further taking people away from their ego. I'm a Leo, right? So I love everything ego based, right? So the spiritual community, especially the new age community, demonizes the ego, and that's all a part of the plan. True. Killing your ego, you're not supposed to do that. Your ego is your protection, but it's also your individual energy, but it's also your purpose on earth and your spiritual experience. When you kill your ego, you're killing your ability to be protected. You're killing your ability to kind of like know what your spiritual purpose is, but you're also killing your ability to reach enlightenment and to be conscious, because as we said in the beginning, the entrance to the spiritual realm or the subconscious mind is through the conscious mind, and the ego is that consciousness. It is that window to, you know, the spiritual side of life, spiritual energies, spiritual realm. When you kill your ego, you're killing your door to kind of leave the lower mind or the wounded ego mind, right? So the ego is very important. And right now their big plan is to kill the ego. Even like, I'm not gonna get too much into it because we know like how controversial this topic is. But let's just say kind of what we're seeing right now, it's kind of funny how solar plexus chakra is the sun, and the name of something that we know going on right now is connected to, you know, another word for the sun or the rays around the sun. You know, a virus on that is basically a virus or an attack on the solar plexus, aka the virus or the attack on the ego, one's consciousness. Basically putting that all together. So transhumanism is actually a form of killing that ego. It's turning everyone into sheep, or, you know, the same person. We're kind of, you know how, and you know how people say, you know, we're in the Aquarian era. A downfall to the Aquarian era is becoming sheep, because Aquarius rules the collective. But it also at its weakest points can show someone losing their identity, which is that Leo energy to blend into the collective. When you lose that, you lose your peace in this puzzle. If you think of puzzle pieces don't make fun of other puzzle pieces for not being the same shape or for not looking the same. They embrace these differences or ego to come together to paint a bigger picture, right? So transhumanism and everything we're basically seeing right now is a way to turn everybody into sheep or a herd that doesn't think for themselves, that don't have their own purpose. And that takes away from, you know, the harmony and the balance of existence.
I love hearing things that you say, and I just got chills all over my body because Indy, I recorded a video right before this, my new moon in Leo energy reading. And one of the main themes I picked up on is stop trying to transcend your ego. It's not the time to be transcending your ego. So hearing you say that, I don't really see other people teaching that, to not kill your ego. I don't think that we're supposed to be led by the ego. It's more like a passenger in our vehicle, right? But killing the ego is really killing an aspect of yourself that protects you. I completely agree. I love seeing our parallels. And also I mentioned that all the Aquarian energy that we've had in this whole year and that we're going to continue to have has to be balanced by that Leo energy, by that heart-centric energy. Oh, it's like, it's giving me chills because I love it. It's just validation for me. So we've already talked about who's ultimately behind this agenda. That was one of my questions. It's kind of like the decoding thing. It is these elites that are trapping us in this, keeping us trapped with us basically consenting to it on maybe an unconscious level.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that, like, you know, we're like imprisoned by them. Let's just say it's kind of like we have on fake handcuffs. So we're basically imprisoning ourselves. So what I like to give, the role I like to give the elites is not even like, you know, guards, you know, in a prison. I would call it like, they're like master manipulators, kind of like getting into the psyche of the mind, which that symbolism leads to like serpents and kind of how serpent symbolism is everywhere. And they basically use that serpent energy. I don't know if you know about Vedic astrology, but
a little
bit, yeah. So in Vedic astrology, one of my nakshatras, it's my sun nakshatra, it's Ashlesha energy. And Ashlesha is represented by the serpent. And it also is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury has to do with the mind. So I always thought it was fascinating how like a nakshatra kind of perfectly encompasses how like these elites in a way like manipulate us with like serpent energy in our mind, because if you look at the human brain, it looks like a bunch of like serpents and worms
and coiled together.
Yes. So it's almost like we're not prisoners, we're just being manipulated to be our own, you know, prison guards, basically.
Right.
So yeah, this distorted matrix is more like we're not even being trapped here, you know. You're not being trapped here. You are tricking yourself into believing you're being trapped. And that's the true trap. So like you said, with like consent and everything, like that's the whole concept of consent. We're basically imprisoning or trapping or, you know, manipulating ourselves. Because in a way, the elites are a reflection of energies within us. They're just the externalized beings of pieces of ourselves that are kind of tricking ourselves into imprisoning ourselves, right? So they're just the actual physical beings that exist outside of us, but they mirror energy within us that are basically inside of us, our own trap.
The agency is still in our hands. And I love hearing you say that, because sometimes when we talk about this stuff, I can get into a place of like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know? And it just hearing that the agency, we still have agency. We still have the power to wake ourselves up, to unshackle ourselves is so empowering, so uplifting. Okay. So transhumanism, there are certain things that I'm curious about that, you know, really do create these bionic humans, but possibly help human beings who are disabled, like hearing aids or artificial hearts and things like that. Is that part of the transhuman agenda, or is that benevolent aspect of it?
In a way, you could see it as being the more like, you know, benevolent, pure, natural form of transhumanism is basically making something broken better. The only thing that I will say, there's a lot of remedies that we see on Earth that aren't natural, or even if they are natural, the one downfall that they have is it doesn't really get to the root of like a certain situation. So I always kind of look at certain ailments that we suffer from, and not to like erase, you know, certain like conditions or anything, but I always look at certain ailments as something deeper. And maybe this is just me being a decoder, but like, what is this kind of revealing on like a spiritual level, an energetic level, and even like a biological level? Why, you know, is this condition happening? Why is this ailment
such
happening?
as like anxiety, depression kind of thing?
Yeah. Why is it happening? And like, maybe why not kind of explore that a little bit more and get to the root and try to solve it outside of like, you know, creating something man-made? Why not, you know, go within? Because I feel like all of our problems can be solved with energies that we have within us. You know, we kind of are our own super, you know, hero, or our own gadget, our own technology, our own medicine. So anything that's wrong with us, or, you know, wrong with us, why not try to solve it with your own energy? And even outside of that, why not try to see maybe this creates a new superpower somewhere else? Because you notice it's like, yeah, you notice in like people who like suffer from like being blind, or like from being deaf and things like that, it kind of heightens other senses. So I kind of wonder, like, I don't know if I necessarily have an exact answer for this, but I guess my back and forth is, okay, is it good to use these things to make us better, or is it us avoiding the real root of certain issues?